How to make the 10th Muse Pauldron by David J. Guyton at armortemplates.com. This is made of 20 gauge steel, and the accents are made with 26 gauge steel, although you could use any gauge steel you want for the armor and also for the accents. This footage was released in my previous 3 videos, but this is the fully narrated version of this tutorial, so grab your hammers and let's get started. Get the template to make this yourself by clicking the link under the video, or in the upper right hand corner of the video, or go directly to armortemplates.com where all of my templates are available. Here I am setting up the throatless shear. You can actually use just plain old snips to get the same effect. It's just a little easier. I started out with 16 gauge steel here, and it ended up being a little bit too thick for the English wheel, so I went back to 20 gauge. 18 would probably be ideal, but this worked just fine. A throatless shear is an extremely handy tool to have in a shop, by the way, so if you're into automotive or armoring or metalworking or anything at all where you're going to cut metal, this is definitely worth it. I think Harbor Freight has them for roughly $100, so definitely an awesome addition to the shop. Here I've got a dishing stump. This is the 20 gauge steel, my second attempt. And just basically starting the dishing. This definitely makes the armor very ugly for some time, but it's not very hard to get the bumps out, especially with the English wheel. Now you don't have to use an English wheel, that's just an option, but you will probably almost definitely have to use some sort of dishing stump or something like it, or else you can't get the armor to take shape like this. And most of this is all done in one pass here. As you can see, it's all pretty close to the right shape now. I did go back and forth a couple times, but this is pretty much all the work you have to do here at the stump. The corners will buckle as you do this, as the metal stretches, so just keep an eye on that. Now, an English wheel, also available from Harbor Freight. I think I paid like $270 for this one. I love this tool. I definitely couldn't get by without it. Well, I mean, I could get by without it. I always did before, but it's a very, very handy tool to have. Once you get the hang of it, you get these bumps out of here. This took like probably maybe 15 minutes to do. Whereas if I were doing it the traditional way, hammering and planishing by hand, this would take many, many, many hours, or half a day or even more, just to get the bumps out. Definitely worth the price. If you got the room for one, pick one up. Hey, while I got your attention, guys, that little notification bell at the bottom, make sure to click that, because if you're a subscriber and you haven't clicked that bell, then you're not getting my new content when it comes out. So make sure to do that. Do it right now. And as you can see, it's pretty good as it is. A little bit more work and it'll work just fine. Here I'm just raising the center a little bit more at the top of the shoulder. And just go back to the English wheel a time or two and work it all out. Now I'm switching to a 2-inch wheel here. This is to get a little bit tighter curves. So just switch the wheel out, just as easy as that, and hit that spot that I was just working on. As you can see, you can already start to see reflections in it, and that means that it's just about perfect. Your finished pass will be a lot lighter pressure, so you're not going to actually be shaping anything here. You're just really going to be focusing on getting rid of the wheel marks that you left in it. The alternative method is a very flat hammer and also some sort of flat surface like this. This is a sledgehammer head in the vise that I have polished to make a flat sort of anvil for the bottom side. And this works fairly well as well. It just takes a lot of work, a lot of time. Did you click that bell yet? I don't think you did. Click it. Then I took a file to it just to get rid of some of the uglier marks that I couldn't quite get out. And cutting out this little center section here. This is a piece of exhaust pipe. You've seen me use this many times before. I'm using a rawhide mallet here to kind of bend the edges away from your skin. As this thing gets close to your skin, you don't want any of these metal parts to be anywhere near it. So it gives a little bit of a flared edge, and it also you know, it looks a lot better, and it also keeps you from getting that digging into your skin in any way. Looks pretty good. This piece is called the Haute. At least I think I'm pronouncing that right. H-A-U-T-E. I've never heard anybody actually say that word, so I've only read it. So anyway, I'm cutting it free here. And then beginning to shape that a little bit. And just rounding it on the exhaust pipe like I do most of my parts. Once it's pretty close to the right shape, check it, see if it fits. And then I use the seamer tool to bend the little tabs over to connect it to the rest of the armor. You can pop your holes before or after you do the bending, but you're going to have to put the holes in there, line it up, make your marks, and then rivet it together. I just use temporary prop rivets, which I remove later on, but this is just much faster than actually riveting it on. But you have to do that before you do this edging here. I made this little edging tool. If you haven't seen this tool, I use it in my Infinity Gauntlet video so that you can see how to make it in that video, and I'll put a link to it in the description. As you can see, you get a nice little rolled edge here. It's not really rolled, just appears to be rolled. These pieces are called lames. I've also heard them pronounced lame. I don't think that's right. I think it's lame, but I don't know. I'm just rounding them like I did the Haute. And then in the center of these, I'm using a masonry chisel on a piece of rubber here, and it's been blunted so it's not sharp. And just hit it a couple times with a hammer, and it gives you a nice straight crease. You can also do this in between the boards of your bench. It works well like that too, but be careful with that because a very light hit can make a pretty big dent that way. I'm using a file to get the edges straight and just sanding over the surface of the armor. And this gives it a very nice even sheen, and it kind of hides any of the scratches you might get in the future. And now on to the hard part. I had to come up with something to put on this thing, and this is my idea. This is the 10th Muse. Make sure to check out my previous videos on this to see the reason I chose this decoration. This is a drawing method that I came up with. I don't think anybody else came up with this method before me. It's possible that they did, but I just never came across it. But if you're interested in this, there's a link in the description below where I draw Einstein with this method. So if you want to check that out, give it a look. Even if you're not a great artist, you can really use this method to your advantage. So check it out. The ability to draw, obviously, is not required to make armor. This is just for your entertainment. And I mean, while you're waiting here, you could click the bell if you wanted to. I don't know. Maybe click it. The drawing came out a little bit nicer than the face in metal. It was a lot harder to make it in metal. I had to make it pretty small, and it was not easy. Just finishing up the background. This is what this looks like. This is actually available as a poster if you guys are interested in. That link for that will be in the description as well. So check that out. Also, if you post a picture of this poster on your wall on the Armor Templates Facebook page, I will send you a free template of your choice. So pick one up, then send me a message on the Facebook page. Now I'm using a blunted screwdriver and just going over all the basic lines here to to get the outline done. Once that's done, I can use some pieces from a dapping set, and from the back just sort of push out, and it will begin to make this a 3D sculpture instead of just a flat piece of metal. The wings were especially hard, but you know, working back and forth a couple times, it'll start coming together. And of course, not limited to this. You could put anything you want on your piece of armor here. Anything that comes to mind, you can definitely make and stick on there. But whatever you decide to put on yours, make sure to come put pictures on the Armor Templates Facebook page. It's something I love seeing, and the fans there love to see it. It's inspiration for everybody, so everybody wins. So come put those pictures up and show everybody what you got, especially if it's something different. I love seeing things that are like totally original. So as the Cromulons would say, show me what you got. I want to see what you got. And you just basically flip back and forth many times. You've seen this before in some of my other armoring tutorials. And I'm working on the stump here. And the wings again. It's all back and forth, back and forth. Here I'm using some hot glue as a resist from the back. And basically just it gives you something to push against basically when you're doing this hammering. And it keeps it from crinkling so much. Now 26 gauge steel is a little bit thin for something like this. Well, it works very well for something like this. I don't know that a traditional piece of armor would have something as thin as that, but you know, for something that sits on the shelf or you're just wearing to, you know, the Renaissance Festival or something, it'll work just fine. It wouldn't do well getting hit by a sword. Here I'm going to solder on that part and the rest of them as well. This part does take a lot of time, and actually I ended up using, for some of the pieces, I ended up using Goop automotive glue instead of solder because it was such a colossal amount of work to get this to actually stick on here and not come free when you're soldering other areas, and cleaning it up after was a lot of work as well. So if you want to glue yours on, as long as it's a very very strong automotive style glue that will hold up to the elements, it should be okay. These are the other parts of filigree that go on the rest of the armor. Now, I didn't show you every part that I made, but you get the idea here. Just back and forth. The more you work this, the more detailed it's going to get. So it's all up to you about how detailed you want to get it. This is a coping saw, or I call it a jeweler's saw, and just cutting out all the parts. Cut them out on the inside and on the outside, and then you just attach them with your preferred method, soldering or Goop glue. A lot of work here as well, but as you can see, it's worth it. This is the world at the top. The top piece here on the top of the shoulder. It's just the same thing, just basically going back and forth from the front and back, shaping the part. There you go. And the parts are put together like this. Basically, there's two leather straps that connect them all together, and a strap that goes around your bicep. And these get riveted into the shoulder armor, and that's it. That's really all there is. And I had to make a harness as well, of course, but all that is a strap around the chest and two straps that connect it to the strap around your chest. Very simple. This project was not easy to do. Don't get the wrong idea. This is a very complicated, very time-intensive project, but it's one of my best yet, I think, and I think you guys can agree it's pretty cool. So if you want to give it a try, pick up the template. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Boo! Not cool. Disqualified. There's one in every season. One in every season. One in every